Hey, you guys don't get to see it, but when it says going live, it gives us a countdown with an exclamation mark.
Yeah. And so now we're live. Hi, everyone. Hi, Lucas.
Hello, world. Hello, Honore.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I am here to help nonfiction authors create courses from their books. I'm kidding. I'm doing very well, but I also do that.
Okay. Well, when you were like, I'm here to do something, I was like, where's here? Where are you?
I'm actually really excited about today's session. Well, I say that every week because I love Thursdays. I actually love Thursdays, even though they're crazy on the calendar. I love the live sessions.
Yes.
It's like one of my favorite things all week.
Yes. I sent an email. I'm Honore Quarter, and I help people to write, publish, and monetize their books. And I sent someone an email this morning and said, I'm available for the next 8 minutes, or in this little 45-minute window, or Monday.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's have a conversation like really fast right now. And someone said to me, I sent her a Voxer, and she said, I looked down to make sure I wasn't listening to you on 2X because you're talking so fast. Yes. I just talk fast. I just do.
Well, there's a lot going on, you know. Got
a lot going on. Word gusts of up to 600 per minute, right?
It's not because you just enjoy having to convey information that quickly.
No. And on the call, I was like, I just needed to stop, make it stop. And she was like, I'm sorry. I was like, no, not you. I meant everything. Can everything just stop just for a minute? Can I just have a minute for it to stop? That would be great.
I would like for you to continue. I just want everything else to stop, right?
Yes, please continue.
So we are live, and I'm going to connect my phone. Guys, I'm going to connect my phone this time to LinkedIn because the last few times we've been on here, LinkedIn and these streaming platforms don't like to share some of the information together. So when I reply to you guys in the chat, it doesn't go back to LinkedIn. So, yeah.
I wasn't able to add LinkedIn this time.
Really?
Before I hopped on. Yeah.
Interesting. Wonder what's up with that.
I think I have to reconnect it. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have to do that.
I know it's on Facebook, but it's not on my account on LinkedIn right now.
Sure thing.
So I guess same thing you're doing. I can share your live on my.
The reason
Take that, technology.
Yeah, we'll just do the share. I actually enjoy seeing both platforms at the same time too, because if I watch the LinkedIn on my phone, it gives me an accurate view count, because not only does LinkedIn not, by the way, this is good information for anyone who wants to ever do streaming on LinkedIn. Not only does LinkedIn not share comments back and forth, like it'll let the comments come to us on Restream, but it won't let me send comments back to them. Not only does it do that, but it also doesn't share the viewer count. So you can't really see on these streaming platforms an accurate viewer count without actually going to some of those platforms. Anyways, so what have you been reading this week?
No reading. What's reading? No, I'm reading on my Kindle, I'm reading The Southern Lawyer, which is a thriller of some kind by Peter O'Mahony. I don't know him. It was a suggested read based on something else that I finished. You know, I'm obsessed with the Red Sparrow series, listening to that. And since I've spent a significant amount of time in my car, I have been re-listening. Now I'm into the second book in the series. It's just so good.
Gotcha.
Just so good. And I finished The Frozen River by Ariel Lahan over the weekend.
Oh.
So I'm not a historical fiction person. And if I had not met her through a friend of mine, I would not have read the book, even though she was on the Today Show and Good Morning America, and it was a people chosen read. I mean, she's a local author here in Nashville. Hi, Ariel. And I just happened to meet her, and she's completely delightful and lovely. And then I started reading, and her writing is just gorgeous. That's the only word for it. So we just switched sides. Like,
I moved.
wait, blank, and you miss it.
I moved you.
So I had finished that. So I had finished that. And then I started reading 12 Rules for Living, but that's the hardcover. I got that from the library, and that author is not coming to me, but I am reading that book. And at first, I mean, the foreword is a little long, like very long. And so I was like, am I ever going to get into the first chapter? The first chapter is excellent, so I'm going to keep reading.
Nice.
That's where we are. So not a ton of pleasurable reading, although pleasurable reading through listening.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and then I'm getting You Must Monetize ready to launch in March.
So you're doing a lot of reading.
Well, it's actually been done. You Must Monetize Your book is coming out. I moved the date. I called an audible on book scheduling. Maybe we should talk about book schedule, because I'm having a conversation with an author later today that we started yesterday about the schedule, right? What happens when life happens and you know, the train is rolling and you've got this publication date, and yet all of your ducks are not in a row. When is it okay to call an audible and move the book? And I said, I actually just did this because I didn't have everything that I needed to have in place in order for it to happen. So what's missing in this conversation is that my husband was very sick for about 9 days. And you don't really appreciate how much you love your spouse or significant other until they're not doing so great. And setting aside his health, and he's doing so much better now and everything is fine. As a couple, we are sharing the duties specifically around our furry children. And he has the night shift. So I'm 4 a.m. to, 8 p.m. and he's 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. except when he's sick or I'm sick. And then I was getting the tap on the shoulder at midnight, like, the dogs need to go out. And I'm like, and of course it's 17 degrees. So it was super delightful. So I went 9 days without getting enough sleep.
Super delightful.
Super delightful to be outside in 17 degrees in the country, wearing his big parka with a flashlight with one eye open. It was just like, I'm like, am I on candid camera? What's happening right now? And, anyway, so that was my life for a few days, and I'm still recovering from the follow-on effects of not getting enough rest, not getting all my work done, not responding to people, et cetera, et cetera. So there are things that happen when you have to just say, I'm going to look at this again from a new perspective. And, you've either made the right decision or you make the decision right. So I had to push the launch of the book by a week, because everyone is supposed to get the book tomorrow. And there's a no. That's a no. That's advanced reader team, because there's no advanced reader team, because I haven't invited anyone to be on it. So everyone getting the book would be 3 people on the art, and it's me, another account of me where I tested the opt-in, and my assistant who helped me put it together. And that wasn't going to work. So all of that to say is, I think we should have a conversation about publication schedule at some point.
Yeah. Well,
and how to put that together effectively, and then to know when to adjust.
Right.
And so the book has been done for a long time. There were just a lot of things that did not happen for various and sundry reasons to get it to the church on time, basically. So that's where we are. Yeah.
That's good stuff. I mean, I'm dead smack in the middle of a launch right now, so I'm feeling everything you're saying. It feels like a series. It's kind of like going down a bumpy road. You know exactly what road you're going down. You know where it's going. You know where your destination is. All the things. It's just going to be a little bumpy along the way. And you can either drive really fast over that bumpiness and feel it even more, or you can kind of travel at a what did we used to call it? Safe navigable speed.
Oh, all right. Fair. Fair.
So,
Fair.
yeah, I think in the traditional sense of driving cars, they say a speed appropriate for the conditions.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going at a speed appropriate for the conditions, and I feel like I'm in third gear though, and I'm going where the engine is like me. It's like, would you please?
Newer car, third gear.
Yes. Yes. So anyway, what are you reading? Because I think you're reading three things right now, and they're all by Lucas Marino.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm definitely not reading the one that's coming out tomorrow. I am done reading that for at least a week.
Okay.
Burn the Girls comes out, and you know how it is. Like after you've been through all the edits and all the changes and all the things and all, you're like, I am so happy that I wrote this, but I'm so happy I don't have to look at it for a little while. So
Yeah.
So I'm actually reading. So I just finished this morning an audiobook for, and it was my first Grady Hendrix book, which is he's a pretty big writer in the modern horror community / thriller. He wrote a book called How to Sell a Haunted House, and it's really good, like really good. So I finished that. Very entertaining, good book. And I just started Suffer the Darkness, which is a Darklit Press book. And it's from, I'm going to make sure I don't butcher her last name, Yolanda Setsos. And she's an Australian author. And she is, her cover is super cool. I think it's the one you thought last week. You were like, hey, that's an awesome cover you just posted.
Yes. I thought it was yours at first.
Yeah, really cool. And then I'm reading 1 Second After. I'm still in the middle of that one, which is an electromagnetic pulse post-apocalyptic book.
Yes.
Which is the second EMP post-apoc book of the month. Just reading them one right after the other. So 1 Second After, Suffer the Darkness, and I finished How to Sell a Haunted House this morning. So. And then Ahmad says hello. Hello, Ahmad. How are you, man?
Ahmad.
Or sorry, Ahmed. My brain is stuck on the names I've been reading. How are you doing? He is in Canada. Where are you at in Canada right now, Ahmed? Are you in I think he's I'm gonna probably butcher this. I think he's outside of Toronto. I might be wrong. If you're still on, man, let us know where you're watching from. So yeah, you know, today's topic obviously is something that you're pretty passionate about because you've got a project associated with it that is in the works. And it's one of the reasons why I think so many people come to you about their nonfiction books when they're in the process of trying to either learn how to produce one themselves or hire someone to do it for them. And this was like some of that, I hate to say it, but it was like one of the things I found missing almost everywhere else I was looking, because the market was so saturated with like how to write a book, basically from a fiction book.
Sure. Or just a basic nonfiction.
Right. And then when I looked into nonfiction, I'm like, okay, you know, how to write a nonfiction book, but there wasn't this focus on writing the right book, the correct book for your business, the one that can actually open the door and bring people to you. Yeah. And so I was thrilled when you brought up, you know, hey, why don't we talk about Your Book Means Business? You know, how do you write the book that brings business? How does that work? And what's the difference in the writing part? Because I think, you know, we think about the marketing and we think about who you're putting it in front of, but the actual book has to be constructed, built to do its job. And that's kind of, you know, boost your brand, make you the go-to expert, all the things that people want to get out of their nonfiction book that's associated with their business. Yeah. So yeah, who better to talk about that than the person that does this for a living?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Probably several people, but I'm here, so I can help with it. It's interesting because I have this conversation now every single day, And I get the same questions. I was at a networking event last night. What do you do? I help people to write, publish, and monetize their books. Oh, you're a ghostwriter. I'm not a ghostwriter. I am the ringmaster of the book creation circus, as it were.
Big Ten.
And I'm coordinating all of the folks so that the author doesn't have to do that. And that's not what we're talking about today, but it's interesting that people only initially, I think, associate writing their book with the writing part of it. They don't think about the crafting part of it, what goes in the book and where and why. What's the purpose of the book? What's the job of the book? And they don't think about the reader who's reading the book and what they want the reader to do. So we've talked about all these things, right? What's in it for the author, boosting their brand, getting more business, becoming the go-to expert. And your book can mean more business. So it's a little tongue in cheek. Your book means business, right? Your book, it's like, you talk about someone, it's like, well, he really means business because he's showing up in a certain way, dressed a certain way, speaking a certain way. Your book can mean more business, just like you can be about business. However, there are some things that have to happen in order for your book to bring business to you. And I think now there are so many people that are like, people tell me I have to write a book, or I'm on stage, so I have to have a book. And they're missing some really important aspects of crafting a book that will mean more business for them with less effort. And on the front end, it's identifying who the book is for. Right? What is the avatar? And like, hint, it is a profile of your very favorite client. Who do you want to duplicate? Right? What do you want the reader to do once they've read your book? So you want them to have some kind of a transformation. They need to be able to put something into place without you. Because the purpose isn't to write a long brochure so they go, oh, well, I only get the good stuff if I hire Honore, right? It's like, no, I'm going to give you everything I can give you in this format without a conversation. So it's going to be, if I work with you, it's custom to you. If I don't know you, here's some really valuable information you need to know. That needs to go in the book. And then there needs to be the journey. There's the hero's journey in the fiction that you're writing. There's the hero's journey of the nonfiction that is being written, at least with me, that takes someone from, I don't know you, I don't like you, I don't trust you, to, wow, I think this is the person that I want to trust with this process. Whether it is investing your assets, or in the case of Beth's book, helping people to buy college better for their kids. So how do you choose where they should go? How do you know how much college you can afford? How do you get the money that you don't have, et cetera, right? Well, all those things. Or just in the case of Ali's book, what do you need to know in order to build this big business? So I gave the book Discipline to someone yesterday, and he said, I don't like discipline and I don't like dogs, which makes me very suspicious of him. But he's probably not watching.
What does this person like?
But he liked the subtitle, what it really takes to build a 7-figure business. Like, I'm very interested in that. So it wasn't the title and it wasn't the graphic on the cover, although he did say it was one of the best book covers he'd ever seen. And I was like, well, obviously. However, it was that subtitle that got him. There are a lot of really important details when you're writing a book that means business. So we can kind of stop there, Lucas, and have some dialogue, but those are the main things that I wanted to get across. And I'm sure there are lots of questions. So Ahmed, if you have questions, Lucas, I'm sure there are some things that you would like me to talk about on this topic also.
Yeah, guys, if you have a specific question about, if we say something that kind of spurs your thoughts, please drop them in the chat. I've got the ability to see your chat. So go ahead and put those in there and then we'll address them. I really like that you pointed out, the fact that the title and subtitle had a job.
Every single word has a job. Everything about the book
has
a purpose. Yeah.
And were really good, and I've seen you do this with everyone you've worked with in my circle that I've been a part of, like if I've been a part of the conversation or I've been around them and you guys have been talking about the books, you've given them this same advice or worked with them on these same approaches. And that is that you don't want to be too cute with the title. People need to understand exactly what the book's about from the title and
Yep.
subtitle.
Yep.
It's good to be witty, but it has to be clear. For example, Your Book Means Business is witty, but it's also very clear. It's like, you're not going to mistake this for something that it's not. And it needs to speak to that person, because no matter what we want to say, covers do sell books. Not saying it's the only thing that sells a book, but it does have a big impact on whether people pick up the book and decide to flip it over and look at the back or read the description, because they kind of work off some assumptions when they see the cover. And the fact that your title is very clear about what you're going to deliver to the reader, I think is profound when you can strike the balance between making that interesting and fun, but also very clearly stating exactly what this person's in for, and what they're going to get out of this book. That's like a really magical spot. And once you have that title nailed down in that unique little spot, you're going to feel really confident and good about what you've chosen. You mentioned boosting your brand, and we were talking about the title, and we're talking about the cover, and we're talking about all these things, and how that gentleman in particular didn't like the design on Ollie's book, for example, which, by the way, is great. It's very
He
clean.
loved the design. He didn't like the title. He didn't like the word
okay.
discipline. He said, I work for myself because I am not disciplined. And I said, I don't think that you can be undisciplined and be successful working for yourself. And he's like, you're right. I guess I'm disciplined to me. He's like, I'm not disciplined to others.
But that design is on brand for Ollie, his personality and his business. My covers are on brand for my business. In fact, they're so on brand that the color schemes that are used in the book are from my business logo. And having someone like Dino, who's a professional, who does takes those things into consideration, I was able to hand him my business's color palette and say, use these colors in the design. And then he came back and impressed me with what he had generated, because that's what he does. That was really important for me, because not only did the title and subtitle reflect what my business provides clients, my ideal client is the one reading it, it's resonating with them, but they also see the theme of the book's design carrying over into my business and the imagery and the way it's presented. So that's one way on the exterior of the book that you can kind of boost your brand, make it relevant. It doesn't look like it conflicts with the messages you send on your social media or on your website or any of that stuff. It all looks like it's supposed to go together. In fact, the book kind of elevates all of that. Right.
Absolutely.
So if you're boosting your brand with and that's a very practical, easy to see kind of example of how the book's related to your brand. The content of the book and the way you've constructed and written the book itself, the things you put in it, you said, make sure you're giving people the information that they actually came for, right? Like
100%.
It's not just a hook. If you're doing that, how do I view my brand in that content? Like when I go to write that book, how do I infuse my brand into that writing, into that content of the book?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question. So the first thing that comes to mind is authenticity. And you want it to boost your brand. So the book has to be on brand. Design, content, the conversation that you're having. It has to be in your voice. It has to sound like you. The best thing that someone can say, I think, is that when I was reading your book, it sounded like I was having a conversation with you. I hear that a lot when someone will say, I've heard you on a podcast. I saw you speak at a conference, something like that. And then I picked up your book, and it was as though we were having this conversation through your book. It's very interesting because I think some people have two different people. or their business person, and then their individual person. And so how they show up at work, and I'm not saying this is good, bad, right, or wrong. I'm just making an observation. It's like they'll be very professional when they show up at work. And so they'll dress a certain way and wear their hair a certain way. And I think this is like perhaps the military is one of the most interesting places I saw this.
Right.
Right. With women with their hair pinned up and, you know, in uniform, and they carry themselves a certain way. And then you see them in their civvies and it's not the same. They're not consistent. Right. And that's the easiest way I can suggest that people keep their brand consistent with their book. Because if you're selling anything, but if you're selling something at a higher tier, you want to make sure that your book comes across in that way. So you may want to have a hardcover instead of a soft cover. You may want to have one type of font over another type of font. You may want to have better design. You'll want to have an extra round of edits and proofreads so there aren't mistakes. You're going to want to customize some pages in there so that people know what else you're selling, and you're going to want to connect with them. You're wanting the book to provide an entryway for a relationship to start.
Right.
And I meet a lot of people who don't take their book, meaning business, seriously. And they will say, oh, I just wrote and published this book and put it up on Amazon as an ebook. You know, I published an ebook. And they don't understand that how they are perceived as how they do one thing is how they do everything. If I didn't have care and concern for my books, I certainly couldn't sell doing books for other people. Right. If you didn't have great courses with professional videos and intros and outros, and, you know, I used the term top and tail on something the other day, and someone was like, what is that? Right. Like, and I got to explain what a top and a tail was.
You're like, it's not as exciting as it sounds.
Not as exciting as it sounds. And so if there isn't a continuous story that's consistent in your book as it relates to your business, your book will not mean business. I think it's important to talk about how to write a book that means business. Mm-hmm. And the first thing is obviously knowing what you want the book to do. What's the job of the book and who's it for, right? Not just the author, but also the reader. Who is it for and how is it going to help them? And then also, how is it going to lead the right reader, the person who is your perfect client, to you to perhaps have a conversation and engage you for your services?
Right.
And so how you do that is very intentionally. You have to know what that job is of the book. What is it supposed to do? When I read your book, Monetize Your Book with a Course, I need to know how to turn my book into a course. And also I need to understand that if I have more money than time, I can take your course or I can hire you to do it, or both.
Right. And
building all of that in, as opposed to just, here's my message, here's my book, I'm an author, yay. That's really going to do a lot for you, but it's not going to go the whole way. It's not going to be what I call a 10 by 10, a 10x return on your investment year over year for 10 years. Right? You want a 10 by 10. And when I tell people that, when I say this is the price tag for doing a book and you will get a 10x return on your investment from year 1 until year 10, if you execute things effectively, they go, oh, that number is impossible. That can't be. I'm like, okay, well, let me give you some real examples, personal and that my clients have experienced.
Right.
And it blows their mind that a book can have that much efficacy and effectiveness and return on investment if they write a book that means business, not just writing a book and publishing a book, or just publishing an ebook.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's an important distinction when we say it needs a job. You know, when a book has a job, the job for the reader might be different than the job for the owner of the book, right? Like the writer of the author may have this book as a way to communicate to potential clients, a way to help people that may not be in their service pool, a way to get their intellectual property out there and recognized, as you mentioned earlier in the episode, for people to kind of recognize your experience and your expertise. But all of those are the purposes of like business drivers, right? Like business goal oriented jobs for the book. When the reader picks it up, they need that book to do a job for them. It needs to teach them something so they can close a skill gap or gain knowledge that they can then turn around and apply in their lives some way. And, you know, one of the reasons why I love the relationship between books and courses so much is because when you write a nonfiction book that teaches people how to do something, it follows a lot of the same like logic-based approach that we use in curriculum development for courses. Like your reader has a desired end goal, like they want to get somewhere, and your book can give them the information they need to get there, or at least get closer to it, or get smarter about it. And if you build the book correctly, it will achieve that goal for you. And it elevates your status with the reader because you did help them. And it might bring them to the next phase where your services are sitting, right? Like you might get them to the point where they can become a viable client or candidate or customer or whatever the case may be. Also, you know, if you're writing it above or below the reader, you're not going to meet the mark. You and I had a really good conversation about this when I was writing Monetize Your Book with the Course. I was like, hey, how do I write this thing? Because I don't want it to sound like a dissertation, but I don't want people to fall asleep. but I don't want to leave out, like, I want it to be very conversational, but I still wanted it to come across very clearly and professionally, which is, you know, to your point.
Yes.
And you did a really good job of kind of setting me at ease a little bit, because I think as a new writer, you're a little more sensitive to that than you may think you need to be. You don't need to project. In fact, if you want them to finish the book, it needs to be an enjoyable read. So making it so that it's very clear and concise, and it gets to the point. Like I've told people, I don't need a history lesson on the status of courses and curriculum development in the United States from 1950 to 2024 in order to build a course. So why are you putting that history in there? For all the reliability engineers watching this, there's a book. It's called RCM2. It's kind of like this reliability centered maintenance Bible. It's wonderful. It was written by Mowbray. He's passed years and years ago, and this book endures. It carries on. It's so good. It's so very to the point. It's very clear. It's concise. It's exactly what you're looking for. Oh, and by the way, he puts the history of RCM in the back of the book, just in case. He knows you don't need it. And I thought that was a really good example of like in a technical world where the history does matter. Even in that case, he saw that it wasn't necessary to the performance of RCM. He could put it in the back as an appendix and say, hey, if you're interested, go read that.
That's right. But
it wasn't up front, wasn't a gate of entry. So when you talk about being concise and leading your reader on a journey, what are some of the ways that you recommend people kind of view developing a concise message in their book?
It's very tempting to want to tell someone everything, and you can't tell them everything.
Right.
You need to give them the gist, not the entire journey.
That's right.
Right? It's very tempting to want to just kind of tell people everything that they need, but I don't need the history of electricity to know I need to just plug my lamp in. Right?
I don't even need to know how.
Right. I don't know. I don't need to know how electricity works. I need to know which button to push or that sort of thing. And so you want to give people the least they need to know so that they know if they want to take action or not. Right? So I like to come from the perspective in my books. I generally start with, you can totally do this. You can do it. And here are examples of other people who have done this. And then here is my process. Here is what I can share with you. Now, there are lots of other things and details, or as this gentleman I was sitting with yesterday said, so it's more than just a book. Right? You do more than just help someone to write and publish their book. And I was like, yeah, that monetize piece is really important. And it comes with a book map, a book marketing action plan, and collateral materials, and how to approach podcasts, and different things that an author can use to get a leg up on their marketing and turning the book into money. Those things are very important. You just can't tell someone in your book everything that you know. The book cannot be 2,000 pages, especially if you want someone to really read it and take action behind it. So planning to be concise and making sure, and here's the best part of this that we're not going to talk about today, but this is your backstop. Your backstop are your advanced readers, not your advanced reader team, but the people who you have in your inner circle that are going to read the book. So that could be your spouse, your significant other, your best friend, and your editorial team. So when I'm giving someone a book to read, I'm going to say, here's what I'm intending for this message. This is what I want someone to take away from this book. When you're reading it, read it through this lens as well. And let me know if I hit the mark. Did I do too much or too little? You don't have to do everything yourself. As a matter of fact, please don't do everything yourself. Right?
Please.
Please, for the love of all that's holy, don't do everything yourself. Have a small group of people that are getting access to that really ugly, dirty first draft to give you some strong feedback. By the time I get to the advanced reader team, it's done. It's done. I've already shared it with other people to make sure that it's hitting the mark. You just want to be very clear on what mark it is you want them to hit. What do you want the reader to do? What do you want them to not do? I want you to always write a book. I want you to write a great book. I don't want you to write a crappy book. And if the stars align, I want to work with you. I want you to take a course or buy more books or engage me to work on your book. So being very clear on what the job of the book is. And I'm going to talk about Beth's book because I'm thick in it right now with Kent and Beth. Her book is Buying College Better. It helps parents to understand how much college they can afford, to help them to pick the right college for their kids based on their personality, what they want to do, et cetera, et cetera. Because otherwise, if you're relying on your teenager and their guidance counselor for an investment that is equivalent perhaps to what you spent on your home, maybe not the best choice. And there is another way, and it's very effective. And if you start soon enough, right? Beth is like, in the labor and delivery room. I was like, okay, we're probably not going to get everyone that early. But that's a really good time to start thinking about putting that money aside. Nevertheless, that book is helping parents to understand some of the things that they can do in order to go on this journey. And then in order to buy college most effectively, but then also if they wanted to have a professional help them a little bit, somewhat, or a lot, that's the journey that we're on. That's the whole purpose of the book, is to help parents to effectively buy college better, right? So we're buying college better than we've bought it before. And being very clear that we're going to, within 15,000 words, help people to understand what the problem is that they didn't really know was a problem. Because isn't that what we've always done, Lucas? That's what my generation did, is we took our SAT, we took our PSAT, we took our SAT, we took our ACT, we got our scores, we had our GPA. We're like, oh, I want to go to this school because they have a bulldog as a mascot. And then we applied to the school and then got loans and grants and mortgaged the house and sold the dog and ended up graduating with a lot of debt. I mean, not me, but that's what I heard. So I didn't go to college. So
I went, but I didn't have a lot of debt.
Right. But you understand there's this general path that people take. Absolutely. And as college is getting more and more and more expensive, it's really helpful to have this clear path. So this is probably not the book that you are wanting to write, the person who's watching this. You want to think about how can you quickly help the person who's reading you, because you want to honor their time that they're going to take to read the book, their investment, what it is that they have spent to buy the book, and help them to get through the problem that they have to the solution, to the other side, with as little pain and suffering as possible.
Right.
So you're taking them on a journey to help them to understand what they can do without you. If you never have a conversation, give them all the information you can, but lead them on this journey that, you know what, if you are selling your business, you probably need a whole team of people to help you to avoid paying too many taxes, to avoid selling the company for too little, to sell it at the right time, right? To invest the money when you have a significant wealth event. And having a significant wealth event means you have made more money at one time, perhaps, than you have ever made collectively in your entire life. And that could be a situation for people, right? People who win the lottery, they end up back at the gas station they were working at before because they didn't have the right team. So helping people to understand the situation and then go, okay, and by the way, if you liked my writing, if you liked my voice, if you liked my lovely combination of professionalism and snark, right? Hi, I have a sense of humor. If it gels with yours, we might could work together, as they say in the South, right? We might could do that.
Yeah, I never got that.
Yeah, we might could do that.
Might could. I'm like,
we might could do it. And then here are the options for that. Here's how we can connect. I handed my book to someone last night at a networking event, and she was like, well, can I have your business card? And I was like, I don't have a business card. This is my business card. She's like, but where's your contact information? I was like, all on that back page. Like, there's more ways to connect with me than anyone has ever thought of. So there you go.
Well, I like that you bring that up because I think that, you know, there's people wondering, like, how does that work? Like, you know, if do I have back matter? Like, what does that mean? Like, you're putting stuff in the book outside of just how to, right? Like, in my book, it's you know, how to build courses and how to market things and how to sell your courses and how to approach curriculum development, all those things. Oh, and by the way, here's how to contact me. Here's where to follow me. Here's where you can find my courses. I didn't learn that on my own, guys. Like Honore had a template for that. And it's you can see it for yourself. Just go pick up one of her books. It's, you know, it's a winning formula. Also, in the beginning,
hard to do, and it helps people to find you. So I have You Must Market Your Book.
Absolutely.
I'll just hold it up right there. So all of these, so a little paragraph about me, a little photo in case you see me in the wild, you know, it's really me. And then I have the name of my company, my email, my website, my LinkedIn, my Twitter. Although I guess I have to put X now, although now everyone just says Twitter X, right? My Instagram handle, and then my Facebook. So those are all the different ways that I suggest you put people to connect with you, or the one way you want people to connect with you. Right?
Yeah.
So all of that to say, I put all of those places because I'm at or in those places pretty consistently. And I want someone, if they're mostly on Instagram, to see me there. If they're mostly on LinkedIn, to connect with me there. If they would just rather send me an email, go right ahead and send me an email.
Right.
Make it easy for the person who is wanting to connect.
But you say that, which I think is a really good thing, because there's this assumption that you're giving people too many options if you put too many things. And that's not what you're doing. You're not saying, follow me on all these places. You're saying, hey, wherever you're at, I'm at, you know, and here's my handle on each of those places. So if you just exclusively stay to one platform, there's my handle. Go find me. I'd love to talk to you there.
That's right. That's right.
It's a great message. Also with the email list, you know, there's, I mean, this is a really big thing, whether you're nonfiction or fiction, people trying to grow their email lists. And you very clearly put your sign up, whether it's on your website or if you have a specific URL to get people on your email list, you know, that should be in that book. Like, you should have that in the back of the book. Now, in the process of like embedding things in the content, I know this was something I did very strategically, but I did it very minimally because I didn't want to detract from what I was teaching people. But there were times, like, say, for example, when in course pricing strategies, where I'm like, hey, I have a whole chapter in Monetize Your Book with a Course about this one topic. So I just mentioned a previous book, and I'm like, and I'm going to go over it a little bit here, but if you really want to unpack, you know, this aspect of courses, go check out that book. And I embedded that right in a chapter in course pricing strategies, because that wasn't the topic, but it was definitely an extension of that topic.
Yep.
And if they were curious about where I'd written about that before, they could go check out that book. Now, I didn't put monetize your book with a course in every other paragraph, and I didn't pepper it in the
No,
beginning of every chapter. It's like,
no.
do it in a way that it feels natural and it doesn't feel input like you're just like riddling people with your stuff. It's the same way in courses. Like, I don't recommend ending every single lesson with a pitch about another course or another book or another thing. Like, they got it. Like, they don't need to hear about it every 5 seconds. They need to hear about it enough.
Right.
And so you want to kind of put yourself in the shoes of your reader when you think about referencing other material, other authors, other books, other courses, whatever in the content.
Yeah. If they like you, they're going to be looking for it. You don't want to make it
Right.
too hard for them to find. If they
Right.
don't want it, you want it to be easy for them to overlook it.
Right.
And I'll use Arate as an example. You'll like the fact that I'm still chipping away at it, right? My red ribbon is getting closer to the back.
If you told me you were done, I'd be worried. I feel like, how did you do that?
Still in it. I started it in, when did I start it? I wrote it in here. The day after Christmas, I started it. So
nice.
Still working through it. I'm on page 680. Anyway, in this book, the author, Brian Johnson, this is such a great book. I'm actually a little mad at him because he's recommended now like 2 podcasts that I listen to every day. Thankfully, they're only like 3 minutes, but almost every chapter references a really great book. And some of them I've read, a lot of them I've read, a lot of them I haven't read. So I'm a little irritated because now I'm like, gee, thanks. Now I got to get through this book. And then I have, 200 other books I have to go explore at some point. So I'm mad, not mad, right? Sorry, not sorry. Mm-hmm. One of the things that he mentions in here, just enough, is that there's an app. Mm-hmm. He talks about Arate as being your best self moment to moment and having an app where you can track your habits, the things that you commit to doing. But I haven't gotten the app. I might still, this is only my first read. I'm going to go through it again several times, I'm sure. I haven't gotten the app because it sounds like it's something I really want. And it also sounds like one more thing for me to add to my already pretty packed schedule and list of things to do every day. So I'm noodling on it, but he brings it up just often enough that I go, okay, well, it does that too. That's interesting. Okay, it does that too. That's interesting. It's not every chapter. And it's not so far, there's not so much distance that I've forgotten to continue.
Right.
Right. That I've forgotten that it exists when I see it again. It's like, it's always in the back of my mind now as I'm reading, like, oh, I bet this is something I could put in the app. And so when you're crafting your content, and this is going to be the lawyer answer here, Lucas, right? The it depends answer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Context.
How often should you mention something, or how often should you have something in your book? I tend to add in book bonuses and give away valuable content so I can keep my books shorter. Although I have had people get really mad and go, this is not a book on marketing. Look how skinny it is. It's only 30,000 words or 35, it might be 40,000 words. I have a lot of book bonuses that are very meaty that I give people outside of the book.
For free.
That would have made it a thicker book. So someone might have felt better about the thickness of the book. It would cost more for me to produce it.
Yeah.
It would be a longer book for someone to read, but they have access to those materials for free. So I have the book marketing action plan, and I have the book marketing matrix, and I have different things for people to download, tools to use that are frankly not helpful inside of a book like this. You can't really get into a book of this size and get in there and write things. When you're thinking about creating a book that means business, you really want to think about what are the tools and the resources that you can wrap around the content for your reader to really help them offline. You're never going to you can't outgive the universe, right? You can't
Right.
give it away and not benefit from that in some way, even if not directly from the
Right.
reader.
And we did a
Uh,
really good episode on book bonuses and book
yes, we
resources,
did.
guys. So check that out because we do a deep dive in there. That is a super valuable part of your book, especially when you think about, you know, building a book that helps your business. Because to your point, if you have a spreadsheet, yay, I get to see a screenshot of it in your book, but I can't use that. I have to go reproduce that manually, which is
Yeah.
annoying. But if it's a book resource or a book bonus, I can
Yep.
go to that link and download the
That's right.
spreadsheet and it's ready to use right now. Same thing for information that's going to change frequently. It doesn't help for me to give you a list of things that is going to change in a week or 2 weeks or even 2 months. And as the author, if you're thinking that there's a short shelf life on the information you're putting in the book,
Yep.
that should be like a pretty big flag for determining whether it should go in a book or in a resource, or if
Yeah.
you're obligating yourself to very frequent revisions of this book, right? Like an annual kind of update. Like we have a mutual client, thanks to Honore. We have a mutual client named Matt Ferret. He wrote Prepare for Medicare. Well, Matt is writing about a government program that will change every year and it has seasons and
Yep.
and so he can update that book annually to keep up with the changes that the government puts out, but he doesn't have
Yes.
to worry about updating it every 3 months.
That's right.
Right. And because it is a
That
seasonal
is right.
thing. So
Yes.
the government is really good about making sure you understand that there's going to be changes. It is going to change, and it's going to change by a certain date because of the season that it's the enrollment periods and all that stuff that's associated with that topic. But the
Yes.
moral of the story there is, as the author, when he is figuring out what he's going to put in his book, he knows or she knows that there's a certain amount of information that must be had by the reader, and the stuff that needs to be a little bit more flexible for you to control as the author, you can use that stuff externally as a book bonus or resource. And you're providing someone, to me, it's an extension of value to the book, which is, back to the kind of the root of what we're talking about here. It's like, this is part of your business. Like you're going to be able to serve them with more than just what's in the book. So don't feel super constricted if you're like, man, I'm almost able to give them what I really want to give them. Well, that's where you can reach outside of the book a bit, on your website, on a podcast, on a YouTube channel, whatever means that you want to use to share that additional information, and just talk about it in the book. Like, hey, there's a YouTube channel or there's a page on my website. Now, with that being said, you are obligating now to have and maintain that thing that you're mentioning in your book.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So if you're like, hey, come check out the Empire Builders MasterCast, and they're reading this book and they're like, I can't find it anywhere. And it's like that's a problem for you as a business.
Frustrating. Yes, I've made that mistake. I still get an email from every so often from someone who's like, I went looking for this and I couldn't find it. And the book is 10 years old. And you think, well, 10 years, 10 by 10, right? Yeah.
10 years ago, that was a thing.
10 years ago, that was my everyday all the time. And now it's not something I've thought about in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. All the things that I've learned about having a book that means business and what goes into that, and the care and concern that goes into it. But when you do it, it is a 2-comma opportunity, right?
Yes.
It's an 8-figure opportunity for your business, potentially annually, but definitely over 10 years.
Right.
Wow.
Guys, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm just going to ask Honore one more question to close this out, because we have 6 minutes left, and I want you guys to be able to ask your questions. So if you didn't catch us saying this in the beginning, please drop them in the chat. I will be able to see them. We will be able to convey them to Honore, and then she and I can bounce them back and forth. But my closing question is, how do I know whether I'm like, how do I control the urge to not feel like I'm giving away the farm? Right. So for me, I'm an open share. I like to just put all the stuff in the book that's going to help them get where they need to go. It made me thrilled the other day that Paul, a friend of mine here on LinkedIn, put a post up yesterday, said, I've been reading this book and using it furiously over the last week to put my courses together. I'm like, yes, that means it's working, right? It's doing its job. The book is doing what it's supposed to do. I wasn't like, oh man, that could have been a service, or did I give too much? Right. No, that is not the point of the book. Was to help someone get that job done.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, I feel like sometimes there's a natural hesitation as a person who makes a living off of their knowledge and their expertise.
Sure.
You feel like you have to balance how much you're releasing. Like, what's your like mental, like, what's your philosophy on that mentality and how to manage that?
Well, I kind of shared it before, which was that you can't give someone everything, because you're not everyone's situation is unique. Every book is unique. No two books are exactly alike, even if they're written by people in the same discipline, the same area of focus. They have the same ideal client, their education, experience, knowledge, and hobbies are different. So they're going to come at it with different experiences and different levels of knowledge and different insights and things like that. I think that that's just an unwarranted fear.
Right.
Because you can't tell someone everything in a book, or it's going to be too long and no one's going to read it. Right?
What? I'm not that interesting.
Well, you are
I'm
that
kidding.
interesting. And
no one wants to do that.
Well, and there's some people that no matter how much you give or how little you give, they're never going to pay you.
Right.
So I understand that the difference between my $20 book and my $1,000 course is immeasurable, but there are some people that are still just going to do the book and go, well, she gives away everything in here. Everything's in the book. And it's like, it's not.
No.
And there's so much that's not in my course because the course isn't a 3-year 1,000-day course. And right. So there's so much that didn't go in the course that's applied to bespoke books as opposed to the course. I say give as much as you can possibly give, because there's so much you're not going to give because you can't. You either won't remember it, or it's going to be something that you learned. I'm learning something. I learned something today, real time, right before we went live.
Right.
There's a requirement on a platform that
I lost your audio. Oh. I don't know if we're having an audio issue. I can't hear you. I'm going to bring you off and bring. It sounds like it's on a separate device. Someone's moving. Hold on, let me see something. I'm going to take Honore off the feed for 1 second. Stand by, guys. Okay, now I'm going to bring her back. Okay, I just brought you back. No. Is this your way of getting out of the end of the episode? No, I still can't hear you. Hold on. Stand by 1 second. I'm going to see if it's a feed issue. Gotcha. So guys, while Honore is getting that corrected, because we are almost at the end of the time here anyways, I just wanted to let you guys know that there's a certain amount of, like, you just have to let go a little bit. I struggled with this. Honore helped me work through this. I was like, hey, I know exactly what I need to put in the book to help people. It took me a little while to realize that they almost weren't the same person. Like, my service client and my book reader weren't the same person. And by having the book and having the service client, I was able to serve more people and help more people. And it's wonderful. It wasn't the same person. And that was a good thing. And then certain people would read the book and say, this is wonderful. Now that I'm smarter about the book, I know I don't want to do the project by myself, so I'm going to hire someone. All right, let's see if Honore's got audio now. Nope. Unfortunately, we don't have audio from Honore. It's okay, though. We're at the end of the time. So, Honore, if you can hold up a sign that says, save me. Look at her. Doesn't she? She looks so happy, though.
I am happy. I'm thrilled.
Hey, now I've got you. There you are.
Byron has his AirPod case and opened it downstairs and it hooked me in with his AirPod. Sorry about that. Well, I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. So never had that happen before. That's fun. That's
well,
fun.
you know, I'm gonna have to give him a hard time because it took that to get Byron on the show.
Right. Yes. Byron may not come on the show, but Frappuccino is on the show.
Hey, it's Frappuccino.
Frappuccino. Hey, baby. Yeah. She's like, stop touching me.
She's like, and I'm a cat.
And I'm a cat. All cat. Yes. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We hope this was helpful. We want you to write a book that means business for you, more business for you. And so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll answer them in a future session, or we can just answer them real time on the YouTube channel or on the other places where the episode is housed.
That's right. And next week, can I announce it? Can I say it?
Sure, of course.
Okay. We have a commitment with the one and only Kent Sanders. He is going to be a guest on the show next Thursday, 11 Eastern, 10 Central. And Kent is a phenomenal ghostwriter. He's also the host and founder of the Profitable Writer Group, formerly known as the Daily Writer. Fantastic guy, and just such a wonderful experience as a ghostwriter to share with everyone. So if you're wondering if you should be doing your book, but you're not sure that you want to do it yourself, a ghostwriter might be the right solution. And Kent's going to help you understand whether that should be the case or not. So, all right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Make sure you come back for Honore, myself, and Kent Sanders. And we hope you guys all have a great week. Talk to you next time.
Thank you.